A little while back, I did a poll on the community tab on my YouTube page, and I asked what kind of content people wanted to see, and overwhelmingly, people said they wanted to see some sort of teaching or educational content. When I think about what teaching is, at its core, you're just listening to somebody and then giving feedback to help them improve. So I thought, let's make a video doing that. I'm going to take some videos that a friend of mine named Bronson sent me, and I'm going to critique them and share with you what my thoughts are, in hopes that whatever things he's struggling with, my feedback for him might also help you in whatever you're struggling with as well. Diving into Bronson's excerpts, the first excerpt that he sent me was the lyrical solo from the beginning of Outdoor Overture. Let's dive in. All right, so the first thing I want to say is that one of the most important aspects of this excerpt is to have a clear, beautiful, ringing, vibrant sound, because it's a lyrical solo. We're just trying to sing with the trumpet. I thought Bronson did a great job with this aspect. His sound had no effort, or there was no force in the sound. It just felt like it was easy and flowing. This is a great job. A few points of feedback from me would be the very first pickup. This is a challenging thing because it's easy to miss the F, and it's very easy to play this timidly because we don't want to miss. But in reality, we have to play it with lots of confidence. The way I try to approach it is to think about it as if I'm playing a long quarter note pickup F to the E flat downbeat. So with Bronson, it felt like he was poking at that top F a little bit and then playing up and down, kind of going down for those notes and then back up for the E flat. But really, we want to try to just keep it as connected and as forward or horizontal as possible. Next, I felt like the E flats he was playing too, maybe in tune, but the color compared to the notes around it was a little bit different. It didn't sparkle quite as much, so I would recommend trying out 2 and 3 to get a little bit more of that sparkle to match the sounds around it. The final point of critique is for the end of the excerpt. I thought Bronson ended it very strong and confident, and especially that last little tag. It's easy to play that too soft and feel like it's not important, but really you want to come back up to a healthy dynamic, which I thought he did well. The very last note could stay strong. That's kind of a side thing I'm sure that Bronson heard. But in terms of the scale coming down, the only thing I feel like I could add is to maybe sweeten up some of the notes with some weight or emphasis or some vibrato, like the very top B flat, and then just a couple of notes in between that might help it feel like it's singing a little bit more. Before we move on to any of the other excerpts, if you got any value out of this video at all, I would really appreciate it if you would just like this video. It helps YouTube know who else to send it to, and it helps me out a lot. Let's get back to it. The next excerpt we're going to dive into is the opening of the Hindemith Symphony in B flat. Let's take a listen. My feeling on this excerpt is that a lot of the fundamental parts are in place. One of the most difficult aspects of this excerpt is the time and making sure the rhythms are correct. I clapped along with each of the beats and really felt like his time was great, and the rhythm was really, really good. The triplets were correct. I felt like he wasn't laid off of any ties, and it really, almost more importantly, had a sense that it wasn't in a hurry, but the music kept flowing forward. It's a tricky balance to maintain, and I thought Bronson did that really well. A couple of points of feedback. First, the evenness of sound. I felt that his dynamic was appropriate, but I didn't hear it being consistent throughout. Some notes maybe weren't as open or as full as other notes. It really needs to be full and forte and bold throughout the entire excerpt. Next, as a little nitpicky thing, I think that some of these accents can come out more. There are times where I think he's doing it in this particular playthrough, but it's not maybe as intentional as I feel like it could be, so that it comes across really obvious that these accents are coming out to a committee. And finally, the only other thing that sticks out to me in this particular run-through is these crescendos at the end. If you look at the music, you can see that he's really trying to demonstrate that he sees and that there's a crescendo written, but it feels a little bit unnatural. For me, I would just think about it as trying to make a push to the accented G at the top of the staff, but not really trying to maybe get softer and then crescendo quickly in that amount of time. The final excerpt we're going to cover is from Ives' Variation on America. This is an incredibly standard excerpt for the military band auditions. Let's take a listen to how he does. For this excerpt, it's very clear to me that Bronson is trying to make a lot of effort to shape the excerpt. If you look at the music, there's not a lot of indication of what to do and how to shape it. There's just a couple of dynamic markings. So it's up to the performer to make sure that they are giving a lot of attention and detail to what do I want to do to make this sound interesting and not just sound like a bunch of notes in a row. That being said, though, one of the critiques I would have is I think sometimes the shaping that Bronson is trying to do is affecting his trumpet playing, where maybe the low part of the register gets a little bit softer because it's starting a run, but that's causing his air to not be as forward or as strong as it needs to be. The fix that I would have for this is to apply something that I learned from Barbara Butler during my time at Northwestern called the Magic 3. To do the Magic 3 on any exercise is a pretty simple process. You're going to play 3 different repetitions. The first one is just going to be slurring the entire passage. After you slur it and you feel comfortable with that, you're going to legato tongue everything. So it's like you're slurring, but now you've added the articulation. And the third and final step is you're going to play it like normal in the style that you want, but you're going to try to pretend that your air is connecting underneath just like it was in the slurred version. The only other critique I would have for Bronson in this excerpt is that for this style, every single articulation needs to have a clear and crisp front. And so some of his articulations are what it's needed, but not all of them. And so really just a deep dive into making sure that fundamentally Bronson knows what's going on and how to create that sound over and over again is all that it would take to shore this up. have a video about that on my channel where I talk about how I approach getting a crisp and clear ping on the note. So if you haven't checked that out and you're interested in it, please do that. Thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Hopefully hearing my feedback for Bronson was interesting for you and maybe even will help you in your practice sessions on various excerpts that you're working on. I'm going to link a video where I dive into Till Eulenspiegel and the trumpet excerpts from that particular piece. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out.